Hey, this is Megan, your host for Conversations for the Moving Self. Conversations for the Moving Self is for anyone who's passionate about movement and wants to take this for a long journey in their life. I know what it's like to be told that this isn't possible, but there is so much proof out there of all the different pathways that you can take, and one of them I'm sure aligns with you. And through these amazing practitioners and artists that I have met over the years, I'm here to share all of their knowledge and expertise of how we can work together to make this life a reality. So stay tuned, keep listening as we dive into these incredible stories of movement and well-being practitioners around the world, reminding us that this reality is possible. Welcome to Conversations for the Moving Self. Today I have Paloma Perez Rojas here, who is an American artist and mentor based in Madrid, Spain currently. Paloma's cultural foundation spans the USA, Chile, and Mexico, holding 3 Bachelor of Arts degrees from University of California, Irvine in dance performance, dance choreography, and education science. She is trained across a wide range of movement practices, from release-based contemporary to traditional Vaganova ballet and African diasporic jazz to house dance. After years of working and teaching in Southern California, she has now moved over to Madrid to pursue a residency with Tejido Conectiva Encina, a company whose somatic and release-based approach has since become central to her practice. But alongside all of this, Paloma also runs the dancing business, which is how I found Paloma. I'm super excited to hear a little bit more around the work that she's doing, really working towards sharing. We were just talking before the episode around these tools of what that space is between knowing you're interested in pursuing a career in movement and then actually making it happen. So through her business, she has an academy where she runs 12-week mentorship programs designed to give dancers concrete tools for building these sustainable careers while honoring the person and human behind the practice. So thank you so much for coming today, Paloma.
Yeah, thank you, Megan, for having me for that introduction. I'm excited
Well,
to talk.
we'll start the episode today, just as we always do, with how you're showing up for your own movement and well-being practice today. I know it's quite early on your Friday morning, but where you're at today so far.
Um, yeah, I try to get my 8 hours of sleep after a long week of dance, and I did it, so that was useful. And after this call, I'll go to a ballet class, and in the evening, I'm gonna go to a contact improv jam, which is really nice, and I hope to add a little bit of calm meditation in there while I work on my computer between here and there. So I'm excited. It's a good Friday. It's like my day off, but I like the Friday energy motivates me to do all these dance things that I like
Mhm.
for myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved what you were saying around like also dance for yourself, and how what maybe it looks like when we're in this freelance space and it's about building the day that suits you on your day off, whether that looks like a more rest day or making
Mhm.
sure you get enough sleep, or versus like, okay, I need a little bit of a class today, I need this other type of energy in my week. So
Yeah,
thank you for
totally. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes on Fridays I don't do anything, but I was like, but I actually like to do things on Fridays. But yeah, very true.
yeah, and there's something like definitely around this energy of Friday where it's like there's a little bit of a buzz, but then there's also like you're tired, and it can complement each other really nicely to pull you into something fresh, which is
Yeah, exactly. Hmm.
I was wondering if now we could go a little bit into how you've arrived where you are now, like where your dance journey kind of began and what where it's been in your life over the years.
Yeah, sure. Um, I honestly really love talking about the beginnings of dance because I think it's totally what has informed where I am now. And this is something I always talk about with like also the in the academy. A lot of dancers come in saying like, "Oh, I started late. Oh, I'm not too old. Oh, I'm like there's many reasons why dance won't work for them for some reason. And and this is something that has happened to me throughout my life, which is why I started the dancing business. But I'll get into that in a bit. And I think once we embrace our story a little bit, then we can actually utilize it to help the exact people that we were back then sort of tap into the past through others and with others. So I started my first dance class, maybe I was like 8 or 7. And then I was a very shy girl growing up, and so dance was like a really, really big push out of my comfort zone. And I think at first I really liked the way that I could access my body in such a funny way. Like I always liked doing handstands and cartwheels, but I like started to get like asked to kick my leg higher and higher and higher. I was like, whoa, you can do that. So I really liked practicing. And with I have a sister who's 1 year older than me, so that was like quite fun, obviously, growing up. And then I left because my family, I mean, in the US, dance is taken more seriously, at least like mm, the jazz dance technique is really taken seriously versus like in Latin America, it's a more social space. So it's not like something you go to train as often in the normal world. Of course, there's people who train it. So then my family didn't quite understand how dance worked. They were just like, sure, you can do it, and then like leave, that's fine. And I was like, yeah, of course, that's fine. I'm like 7 years old. And then when I was like maybe 10 or 11, I started to become obsessed with like the ballet vibes. Like I thought it was so cute. My favorite color was always pink, and it was all pink. I was like, oh my God, I have to do this. And I have this video of myself on photo booth where I'm like this very like MacBook. I'm like trying to like, and then my parents were like, "You want to do ballet?" I was like, "I think I would do good." So then I finally got put into ballet. But when they put me in ballet, they were like, "Are you sure you only want to do ballet?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a shy person. Like, I don't want to do anything more. This is already a lot." But the director was like, "You should try jazz. Trust me. Like, try jazz." And yeah, I think I've always loved like playing with my body's muscles like this and stretching and cartwheels. I like turning. I still love all that stuff. Like I love the thrill of like turns, and that's why now I'm a release-based contemporary dancer because I love the roller coaster ride. Um, yeah, and then but that year again, my family didn't know that it was so serious, but I started to become more conscious that it was a very serious practice. A few years pass, and my friends in high school were like, I go to dance every day after school. And I was like, every day you go to dance? Oh, that is incredible. Like, I want that so bad. Like, that is so cool. And this is when I was in middle school. And I remember seeing a performance when I was like, oh my God, this is what I need to do. I don't know how shy me is ever gonna get up there, but I love it. And then I realized people were doing it very seriously. So I asked my parents to put me in. And at first, I just stayed with the school. And then finally, I was able to connect with my old dance studio that I went to for a year. And I arrived there as a middle school girl, feeling a very shy person, kind of like being very behind in feeling very behind. Like all these girls were very flexible. They had the perfect body for dance, apparently. And so then I worked very, very hard. Like um as I was transitioning to high school, there was a dance company that they would I remember watching it in middle school and I was like, this is the most beautiful dance I have ever seen in my entire life. Like I'm 14 and I've seen maybe three things, and this is definitely number one. And so then I talked to the director because I know that's what you're supposed to do is like kind of network. And so then I asked her like about the company, and and some of the dancers were like, freshmen never get in, but you can audition. Like I usually don't let freshmen in because I don't know you. So go ahead. And we were in a competition team at this time. And my friends were like, none of us can audition. We're too busy with competition. This is very serious stuff, right? And I was like, yeah, sure, sure, sure. But I had to audition. So then I like really accessed dance on my own at home because I also wanted to catch up. And I was like, I want to reach a different level of dance, but and I also want to make it into this company. And I trained very hard on my own. And I guess the basis of this is that I felt like dance was very like somehow inaccessible to me in many ways, though I had a lot of privilege to access dance. I ended up getting in the company, and this is how I found contemporary dance because they showed us NDT, which is more like neoclassical. But I was like, wow, they're using like props and like so abstract. And now I'm like 17 years old, so I kind of get it. Back to the story, my friends were very like, how could you audition for the company? And I was like, I can't believe I got in. Like, I was not expecting this. My older sister always talks about, I can't believe you got in. This is so amazing. Like, you worked so hard to get in that company and you did it. Like, this is just goes to show you, like, you can succeed. Like, even when I'm questioning myself these days, she's like, remember that time? Anyway, then after graduating high school, I decided I'm not gonna do dance. This is like I I like it, but it's just like mm, I'm not gonna earn money. Like I'd rather be a doctor. And it's also not gonna impact the world. That was the hardest thing for me. I was like, there's so much suffering and I'm gonna be a dancer. Like that doesn't make sense. That was my belief at the time. My dance teacher told me when I told her I wasn't gonna do dance, she's like, Paloma, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I'm sure. She's like, I want you to rethink that at some point, but it's okay. Like you do you. So then I applied to a bunch of random universities, and I said, okay, if I get into UC Irvine, I might think about doing dance. But if I get into UCLA, I'm for sure gonna do science. Didn't get into UCLA, got into UC Irvine, but I was in Utah and no one leaves Utah like after high school. I was like, should I leave Utah? So I decided to leave and I went to UCI, but I decided to study political science. And then I had to leave school because I was a out of state tuition and that was way too much for my family. So I took a gap year to get in-state tuition. And then I decided that summer that I should do dance. This is when I started teaching dance. And I was like, oh my God, what if I do dance? But I knew my level still was so low in order to pretend like technique was like, ooh, in order to become a dance major at this school, I was like, I need to train. So again, I trained a lot on my own. Got into the dance major. I love dance. After college, decided again that dance is not it. Like I need to do something that earns me money. I tried moving to Berlin, not lost all my money, but ran out of money. Came back to the US, became a teacher, told my partner at the time that I was like quitting dance and I'm just gonna do the easy life with you and like I'm gonna earn my income and it's gonna be so nice and we don't have to stress. That was like maybe 1 month in of quitting dance. I was like, there's no way that I can let everything that I just worked so hard on since I was little go. And then I started this Instagram, the dancing business, where I don't know how to make this happen. So I'm going to just post things and see if someone can comment tips and like maybe I can connect with people. And that's where the dancing business started. One of my videos went viral where I talked about like how having a full-time job and being a dancer was very hard. Um, and then I was like, okay, that went viral. I'm gonna keep talking about that. And then my Instagram grew really big and it just started to become about like dance careers with full-time jobs. The reason why the dancing business then started was because I felt like there was a lot of inaccessibility. There is a lot of inaccessibility with dance in general, but in terms of information for dance careers, like non-existent. And so then a lot of dancers started to reach out to me with questions, and I'm like, girl, I'm trying to figure it out too. I don't know. And then I started to know, and I did it on purpose also because I wanted to help people and not just talk about my struggles. So I started to do more research, realized that I actually have so much privilege with all my training that I had stuff to share. And I think a lot of us like don't realize how much we know, even if like it might seem obvious to me, but to my dancer who to my friend in I don't know, in a country where dance is way more inaccessible, like Pakistan, might not have any idea of these very basic business things or very basic dance things in relation to business. And so then that information, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make it more accessible and share it with the dancing business. And yeah, and I guess going back to the very beginning of the story is how to bring all of the struggle into the lotus flower of whatever you're gonna build in the future.
Mm,
Yeah, that's all.
yeah, yeah. Like, uh, thank you so much for sharing. I think it's part of the reason that I've asked this question is I think like number one, contextualizing the person who I'm chatting with, but it's also really nice to see like the reality because I think sometimes you're right, like with the world that we're in nowadays, it can feel easy to feel like you don't have the tools, but then hearing different versions of the story and different like moments where people left or questioned it or came back, and this is really super nice. And something that I was reminded of when you were speaking as well is like I think it was definitely a part of why I fell in love with dance when I was younger, as well as this goal-oriented thing of just like having something tangible to understand your sense of progress within, which I was actually thinking about recently, like once you start to get into career spaces, that can be a lot more rare to feel like it's in the
Oh yeah.
dancing part that is goal-oriented rather than just the job or the financial side of it or things like this, and how we can keep that energy, which is
Mm,
super also a tangent, but something that as you were speaking, I was like, oh yeah, like this is it really is such a nice space because it I think it empowers younger dancers to have something that's like also theirs, and it's a little bit like you're still in a team, you're still like you were saying, like you have these dynamics with friends where you're all taking it seriously to a certain extent, but then it's also still individual, which is yeah, such a
mm.
little special gift around dance.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like as maybe more somatic
Yeah.
based or like now you're a yoga teacher, right? As well.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like this goal orientation vibe of like as a tool, right? Because it's true. Like I think sometimes I try to let it go and I'm like just move and feel and I love it. Like I love that.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate that this moment of like, wait, this is a cool tool that sometimes we can like use to, I don't know, feel empowerment. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also I loved what you were talking about around like the different chapters of your life where sometimes it was like training in a space with a lot of other dancers, and that was more what dance looks like for you. And then in other moments it was very much training on your own, and this especially now like there is so much access, even though there's still a lot of problems with like accessibility for sure in other ways, but like the things that we can do on our own, and yeah, just like well done. And it was reminding me of nights as well, like when I was younger, sat in front of the TV, like stretching.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, and then going into dancing business, which is I think where I would like to head next a little bit more, is just what that's looking like nowadays. But I loved what you were I hadn't realized like the way that it had started, so it was cool to hear the beginning of the story for the dancing business, and I relate a lot to this sentiment around wanting to share something in the world of where individually we would have struggled in that space.
Mhm.
Uh, and I liked what I think why something that I've connected to with it on Instagram and things like this is this concept we were speaking around accessibility with what dance looks like as a career and not just as something that you're doing, but how do you start making money off of it? What tools do you need in this space? But that sometimes it's almost gate kept until you're in the door of the university or of the job or of the thing. And it's opening it up in the space of feeling, empowering people to feel like it's possible.
Mm,
Like if that's the barrier, yeah, it was making me think about like where does the barrier lie? And sometimes it's not just useful to provide these tools to dancers who are already dancers pursuing it professionally, but it's actually probably more important to provide those tools a little bit earlier in the journey. So thank you
mm.
for already like inspiring so many. And yeah, I'd love to jump into like what the dancing business looks like now. I know you offer these 12-week courses, but maybe just a moment for you to share a little bit what it's looking like for you nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The dancing business feels like a project or an art piece, or like, when you have a collection, whatever way you decide to make art, whether it's like I'm making a piece or I'm making like a visual art piece, or it, to me it feels part of art to me because I love it. Like it's a very creative thing for me. But at the same time, as any art piece, there's struggles in it of like maybe self self boundaries that I put on myself or on the dancing business. So, and when you create an Instagram or like a business, there's a sort of like quality to it because you are in a context, in a very specific context. So the dancing business right now is this sort of like mash between like what I love, what I'm supposed to do, how I should communicate it because of my audience to create accessibility on a platform like social media where it's meant to be addictive, right? Um, and also in the context of the planet in which there's really important issues while we're trying to build a career, and we're in a world where currency is our survival more than food, while also trying to make it something that sustains me so that I can not have so much pressure around being a performer, which could also be another part of the conversation. So a big mash of things where right now the dance business is more focused on supporting others, but at the same time I'm in a constant conversation with myself of like what is, and with all of the social media posts about how to be an influencer and how to build a business on Instagram and all that stuff. So there's many voices in my head, and I think right now I'm in this push pull between sharing my personal journey, talking about like my particular perspective, and also being useful and helpful for my audience of what do I is promise is career support for dancers. And that is also a very like huge topic, right? Um of how to build the most like unorganized career, or not unorganized, but the word is more like uninstitutionalized or unstructured. Like it's just different from every other career. And so then I'm sharing like what are the tools in which you can make this is possible. It's just a different route, you know?
Mm.
And so these are some tools that support this specific career. So that's sort of like the dancing business as an Instagram and as a voice is this mix between me and like all the thoughts that I'm having throughout my rehearsals and with my company and with my friends, and the reality of like life looming um uh, onto me, not only like my career, but also just everything happening in the world to all of us. Um, and yeah, and trying to provide tools, whether it's for dancers who are just got here to the dance community or have been here. Um, yeah, and there's some things that are decided for the dancing business, which is like the career support. That's like our for sure thing. Like I was saying, when you create an art piece, like you have maybe a theme or something that just helps you come back every time, or it's I know it's gonna be a paint thing, so I'm gonna use paint. That's like my non-negotiable. So that's our non-negotiable. But in terms of like how we get there and like in what way, I think is constantly changing and will change, or is just like still a brainstorm in my head. And I think how I'm very like an action-based person. So I try not to think too much or else I would have been stuck. And I do get stuck when I start thinking. And so I'm just kind of trying to share as much as possible because I'm in the context of Instagram that needs more videos in order for the algorithm to support the page and like all that stuff. So yeah, it's this big balance.
Hey, this is Megan, your host. I hope you're enjoying this episode as much as I did. It was such a special opportunity to connect with Paloma, and if you're enjoying the episode, there's a special opportunity for you right here. Go follow Conversations for the Moving Self on your favorite listening platform and leave a review below. If you do both of those things, Paloma and I both have a special promotional code that you will receive in order to get 30% off of any of the dancing business's online courses. Stay tuned for the rest of the episode, and we can't wait to see you again on Conversations for the Moving Self. I was relating to it in so many ways in my own career, and I was like, ah, yes, okay, yes. Yeah, what stood out to me when I was listening was like this moment where, as an artist or a creator or a dancer, whatever medium you work in, like this thing of when something becomes an actualized project and you start it, like once you put that first offering out, the way that it shifts in many ways helpful, and in many ways exciting, and in also many ways challenging. Uh, and this fine line of balancing like what is the project at its essence and its intentions and versus like what do I have to do within the situation that it's in, the context that it's in, within the
Mhm.
industry and within the world, and how like all of these things are factors 100%. Even when we were speaking earlier around like what dance, what role dance plays like in spaces like the US right now versus other cultures where it's more of a social space. And it within that, I was thinking in the yoga space that I'm in, like yoga is not really meant to be a commodified practice, but then at the same time, I've had so much
Mhm.
joy and peace and support from it that then I wanted to pursue it to be able to share it. But now it's becoming this
Mhm.
commodified thing, and what that does and the
Mhm.
questions that stir as an artist or a creator or a facilitator there, I think was where I was just like, oh, yeah. And I think it's one of those things that probably we're all always trying to answer. Like it's never really a finished conversation, but
Yeah, and I don't know if I can add a little bit to this part. I think like as dancers, and this is a conversation that comes up a lot in the academy too, is in the academy where I help dancers build this career. And sometimes in my videos too, I say like decide on your personal brand, decide on like what you're gonna do, decide on your project. What's the non-negotiable? Knowing that at the same time, that very moment is hard because you're like, I'm going to change. And I'm going to change my mind and I'm going to want to do other things. And so, yeah, like with this yoga space of like, okay, I'm going to make it a career. And now it has to be like, I have to like codify it somehow and find a marketing strategy. And I think like that's why it can be so difficult for dancers is because you're a human trying to like make a personal brand vibe and like make an Instagram page and a website and then decide on what you're doing. And so then I think like something that I've found is like the world is a lot more forgiving than we think. Like we're humans. Like every time there's someone on the other side watching my videos, it's a human. It's not like a robot who expects me to always say the same thing and like keep a personal brand in one way. Um, and so we can change our minds, and I think it just helps to decide sometimes. Like that's why the dancing business became what it is. I decided on something, and yeah, I might change my mind, and maybe I'll lose like 8,000 followers at one point. I like whatever. Like it is this sort of push and pull thing, but I know that like I want to also support others. So this sort of relation of like deciding I'm a dance teacher or deciding I'm a yoga teacher, and that's a very like codified, specific, like maybe approach to yoga. But in my classes, I can kind of take it how, how I like. So when I advertising the academy, this is what we say, blah, 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 blah. But then when we get in the meetings, it's human. I'm,
Yeah.
I have to use my Instagram voice. Hey guys, if you want a career in dance, blah, blah, blah. And then be like, oh my God, it's so exciting. And then you get in it, and then it's a human conversation speaking about like the real stuff that isn't gonna go viral on Instagram because it's like a very specific language. So yeah, sometimes we have to like decide on something because we live in a world in which this is useful for people to hold on to, like, oh, you offer this, I will take it. Um, and then once you arrive there, it becomes more of a conversation between you and the practice, or you and the business, or you and the offering. Uh,
Mm,
yeah, so I think we have more flexibility than we think, but it helps to decide, I think.
yeah. I loved what you were saying around like the reality of the even in the dancing business when it's marketed versus when you're in the sessions, it's human. And it reminded me of when I had been reading like your bio and things around the way you articulate the dancing business is rooted in like who are the humans that you're working with. I think this sentiment feels really I really connect with this space because ultimately, like especially in a space like dance, the what you were kind of just t touching on a little bit of like the product is also a human, and like when you decide your brand, it is a human, and so to work from that space as artists, as dancers, as creators, it just allows us to work even more effectively or aligned with where we want to head. So
Mm-hmm.
that kind of brings me into a question around the within your own career, how dancing business is helping you, how it sometimes maybe is like there's tension, like how does that look in terms of like finance, physical sustainability, like what
Mm.
has it what has it brought you? What struggles come up sometimes? How is it going?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, thank you for asking. I think like again, it's sort of this art project that's always like there with me. So, but that doesn't mean that I have other collections, let's say, where like I focus on when I'm creating right now, I'm very interested in site-specific work relating to the somatic body of the audience and the person. And so it's this other project, and of course they affect each other. I'm with the Hilo Conectivo, and we're doing stuff with them, and they're like a community, and also we're working on pieces. And okay, so then there's all these mix, and there's all these projects, and I work in a very like, if I'm here, I'm here. So when I'm with the dancing business, I'm there. Of course I'm being affected by everything of my day and of my other projects, but like it really helps me to sort of organize my time of like between in the mornings right before I go to Tejido Conectivo, it's for the dancing business. And so that's what I'm focused on. I can be very present. And so I think that the dancing business has been with me since I moved to Spain. So it's a very like yeah, I guess it's sort of like I keep relating it to other things, but sort of like a pet. Like I got it in February of 2024. There's no way I would ever let it like starve or die, or like I can't complain. Like I have to take care of this like baby. And so I don't even think about a life without the dancing business right now. Of course, there's times there, like recently I was like, what if I did give up, right? Like, what if I did? I guess I could have like way more hours to focus on my freelance stuff. But I like I'm just not appealed to that. Like I just love what I'm doing with the dancing business. I mean, the community we have, though it's all digital, it's like very epic relationships we've created. So it would be like letting go of friends. Like I can't do it. Um, and like all the people we connect with on Instagram, it's quite like integrated, and the digital space has really allowed for that. And so it's become something part of me, but of course then it's also like a business, or it started off. And the reason why I could move to Spain is because I knew that if I did quit my teacher job, now I had this Instagram that have has a lot of potential. And so it did become something concrete that would support me financially, potentially, because at the time it wasn't necessarily allowed there yet. And yeah, it's this tricky balance of like I think the society is moving and like kind of walking around capitalism and through and behind and like around. So, so is the dancing business, especially because I am also like finding my relationship to this world and to money. But it's like the very fact is that I need money. Like we all need money to survive right now. So that's just like a non-negotiable. So it comes back to this conversation of like what's the context in which I am in, and how can I make what I want to make work, knowing that there's restrictions. Just like when you apply to a residency or like anything, any project thing, and they ask you, can you please focus on, I don't know, accessibility, language, Spanish, I don't know. You have to sort of like a little bit fit your project to that. So that's kind of how like life has been feeling, and how my career also is sprouting. Is like I do live in a context where I have to earn in euros and in dollars, and then that sort of like I lose a lot of money in the translation between both. Okay, what am I going to do? Complain about it or just let it be and continue moving forward? So the dancing business, as once it started growing as a page, yeah, I was like, okay, this has some potential to support me financially, because something that I committed to was like before I started it, the reason why I felt comfortable being into a dance career was because I was like, I'm not going to rely on dance to be my finances. That was like what
Mhm.
helped me at first. Now I know that it's possible to have dance be your finances. And so I'm like way happier because I'm like I can have both, and I don't have to be very like, because I felt like it would be a lot of pressure, and it is a lot of pressure that a lot of dancers feel. I have to get this audition or else I'm not gonna get paid, and I have to like I have to like feel like a little like I have to like be funny so that the casting directors like me, and then they maybe so it is a lot of pressure. So having the dancing business as a financial anchor, whether it's like it is a very up and down thing because it's a business. So sometimes I have like an income and sometimes I don't, just like as dancers. And so then I organize my finances in that way of like, I'm not going to overspend just because I had like a month where the academy launched. That money is sustaining me for the whole year. And all of my money becomes that. So that's kind of how I organize my funding, whether it's like a dance job that got me $50, like that's gonna help me like for a few months probably, because I kind of I look at my money salary based more than like monthly based. But that also comes with surprises. If there's an emergency or something, of course I have to like shift, and then now I but having awareness of my financial organization is useful. And yeah, having the dancing business as an anchor of potential to offer things, because the dancing business became now has is an audience, which I think is very useful. Um, where like I can offer something even in Madrid, even in person. And I know that at least 15 people from Madrid might see it compared to like on Facebook where I only have like 8 dancer friends who I see in person, and I'm not gonna charge them for my dance class like they're my friends. So this sort of like yeah, I think the audience of the dancing business has really empowered me to be like, maybe I can create events, or maybe I can do this stuff that I actually really like, and it can sustain me financially. Yeah, and it's just a safe, it feels like a safety net among the freelancer journey of trying to create income streams. Um, yeah, and I think like every single day I in the mornings I work on the dancing business and then I go to company until 5 p.m. and then I try to do a little bit in the evening, max an hour because I'm tapped out like in my head. And if I were I for the first year I tried to do a lot at night and then I'm like, this is so ineffective. Why not enjoy my evening and maybe do 1 hour on Tuesdays or 2 hours on Wednesdays? And then I spend all my Friday with the dancing business so that I can kind of anchor my time. But again, I really enjoy it just because how much it enriches me. And even my friends in person are very inspired by the fact that I do this random the dancing business thing, which isn't really integrated into my life because it's so digital. But it's
Mm,
so just the fact that I'm doing it is inspiring my friends, and that's already like super cool. Yeah, I think as dancers, it always helps to have something like safe, whether it's like a part-time job or like I tutor like 4 hours a week just to get at least like 300 euros a month. That's like an anchor that I can pay my rent. And even if my projects go up and down, like I have this sort of anchor. And this is something we also like I share about in my videos. And yes, I say like you can be a full-time dancer because full-time dancer is also having side gigs. Like it doesn't mean
yeah.
I'm like literally always dancing. Like sometimes I do have to teach and sometimes I do have to do other things like social media. But that these other things that you find over time, like I did with the dancing business, still feels like this is me, this is real, this is cool. It feels authentic to me. I like social media. Like I don't like I'm not obsessed with its state all the time. It's like a brother. It's like I sometimes hate him and I sometimes like love him because he's really funny and like supports me somehow, even if he bothers me almost every day and comes to my room without permission and spends an hour in here when I'm like trying to do work. Like that's how social media is, but I think I like it. I like videos. I like speaking to people. I'm good at it. I everything I'm good at, I was like, oh, I'm gonna just like grab it and try to make it my income somehow make me support it. That way it's natural. I'm not doing it
Mm,
natural.
yeah, it made me think a lot around like the the way that like in a corporate job really there's going to be the same elements, but like I think sometimes it's easy in the day to day. I was just speaking with a friend recently around like the dancing jobs versus the dance adjacent jobs, and
Mhm.
we were having a conversation around that, but really like in within a 9 to 5 corporate job, for example, like there's going to be tasks in that day that you're like, okay, this one's not really my favorite, but like I still have to do it. But sometimes in a freelance career, it's easy to feel like you're like not successful if you're doing something like that, or like to hyper fixate on the role that that's playing instead of being able to step back and go, okay, no, it's giving me this. It's part of the financial support, or it's the downtime in my day. Like it's easy to do. I enjoy it, but it's not like
Mm.
requiring a lot of energy. Or even for me, like something I was speaking about recently is like the roles that are more outward facing versus inward facing, and there's a balance to building a schedule that feels like I'm in a yeah, a balanced place with how much I'm working in a or a outward facing space versus the more admin computer stuff that is able to travel and be transient and be in my hour in the evening whenever I want it to work. Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Thank you so much for sharing. There was so many like little
Mm.
bits in there that I was just like, yes, yes, like this is the reality and what empowers you to then chase the things that you actually enjoy instead of feeling stuck by, yeah, stuck by some pressure of the idea of what something looks like and feeling like you have to become something just because you've seen somebody else do it that way versus like what actually aligns with you and what feels good. Because that's, I think if we are pursuing something like this, like a lot of times it. I say all the time, like it's too much work if you don't enjoy it. So pursue something that you enjoy. But for so many people, they do enjoy it so much. So how to allow that to linger.
Mhm. How to find what you genuinely enjoy, which takes
Mm,
time. And like I recently heard this quote that was like, um, the goal is right now. The goal is here. The goal and what is changing is you, not the goal. You know? I think John Cage.
mhm.
You should look it up. Like
Yeah,
so we want to there's always like maybe a future me version of me that I like would really like love to be, because there's some tension in my present where I'm doing things that I don't necessarily like. But even in that future, there will be things you're doing that you don't necessarily like. And of course, maybe I want to like what I don't like 90% of my day, what I like 10. Like, oh, I hope I
exactly.
it will take time to get there. But also I wanted to say also distinguishing the difference between what feels good to you or what you like, what feels like a dynamic life that's sustainable for you. And I like dynamic as a word because it's sometimes I love it and sometimes I hate it, even though doing what my dream, I'm living my dream life. Um, but yeah, this dynamic me that I think is very exciting because I like to live in an excited state or I like to live in a very calm state. So I'd like my life to feel this way and being real about how much that costs, for example, because maybe like everyone talks about how having 100K salary is like the minimum, right? At least in California, like minimum. I actually don't need that. So why do I keep chasing and being so like hard on myself because I'm not there? So the difference between what life do I genuinely want to live, or every day sustainably in the long run, or the life that I think I'm supposed to live. And I think a lot of dancers live in that in between of like, I'm not a professional dancer until this. Even though like I really love my dance team and I'm having a lot of fun and I get to train every day. And yeah, like I have a job, a part-time job, but I don't mind it. But like I'm not really a dancer because that's a dancer, you know? So
Yeah. Yeah.
like it's a
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
It's yeah, 100%. Yeah. I can't word it any better. Like just yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Which actually I'm aware of your time and it kind of actually ties a little bit into the question from the previous guest for the
Okay.
closing question, which is in this world that often feels very fragmented, and we were speaking a little bit earlier of just like the current situation in the world, what helps you feel whole?
Hmm. To my community or community people. Uh,
Mm,
like I was thinking about we have this incredible teacher, one of the company dancers, Andrea Amor is her name, and her classes are so epic. We leave this universe, we leave this plane, not this universe, we stay in the universe, we go to a different one. And I wanted to almost say this energy, but it wouldn't be there if it wasn't for her, if it wasn't for my family of Tejido Conectivo, like all the company members, like if we're shaking for an hour and a half, it's in a circle with them. And maybe
mm,
like someone new comes in who I've never met. But if that person wasn't there, if that it would be something different. And at the end of the day, like this has happened to me where I like had a really hard day and I'm talking with the doctor and I'm crying and I'm like, oh my God, I have a meeting in 5 minutes. Do I cancel it? Like no, I can do it. Like I'd rather do it now than reschedule. Okay, and I get on it and then they ask me, how are you? I'm good, how are you? Like, and it's not out of like I'm not pretending to be good. Then I'm like, oh wait a minute, I'm actually a little bit sad. I'm actually a little bit sad, but just seeing your face immediately, I'm good. I'm happy to be with
mm.
you. Every morning people always ask me, how are you? I'm good. Wait,
Yeah.
actually a little tired and I had a really hard yesterday, but like I'm here with you and that makes me happy. And then we can talk about the rest like later. But I think that this is like what makes me feel whole is just like people and presence with people.
The power of community and connection.
Mm.
Thank you so much for sharing. It was such a pleasure to like chat all things, and I feel like, yeah, I could spend a long time chatting about all of this. So thank you very much for like your generosity and for sharing some of what dancing business is as an offering, but also like what it is for you and your journey as well as an artist. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Megan. Yeah, it's also been a big pleasure. Again, I appreciate this podcast. I'm excited to keep listening to the other episodes to hear the other perspectives. I'm sure there's a lot of like little pieces of gold that a
Mm.
lot of movement practitioners are sharing because being a movement practitioner in a world where run by uh, money and trade and like this sort of hierarchies, it's difficult, but somehow we're making it work. And this is why I share in the dancing business. Like, we do need to use a little bit of the tools we don't like, yes, but it's worth it because at the end of the day, we connect with each other, and that's the real stuff,
Yeah.
you know.
No, really thank you. We at Conversations for the Moving Self want to say one final big thank you. We know what it's like out there to try and pursue this movement career in a long term, sustainable way. When it gets hard, you know where we are. Stay tuned. Next Saturday, we have another amazing episode coming out with a new guest to share their experience of navigating this career firsthand. So, big thank you again, and see you next time on Conversations for the Moving Self.